Today, we slow all the way down and enter Frank's world from the very beginning. Because if you know what it was like for him as a boy, you're going to understand him as a man. And when you can understand him as a man, you're going to have more compassion, less resentment, and you're going to know where to draw a line with him. Frank was born in the late winter in 1973 on a small Midwestern farm to Gerald and Ray. He's got 7 siblings all crammed into a tiny house, and you can just picture it. Boots lined up against the door, coats hanging on nails, somebody always asking where their other glove went, and Frank lands right in the middle of all 7. So he's not the oldest, he's not the baby, but he's just the middle who gets whatever is left over at the end of the day. He is a very sensitive kid. He cries easily, big, fast tears just jump to his eyes before he even knows they're coming. And Gerald is a grumpy, worn down farmer that doesn't have time for tears. So he did what a lot of men or dads did back then, and he would mock Frank for being a wuss. Mornings on the Thompson farm start before dawn. Frank's hands, you can just imagine, on cold metal pails, walking as fast as his little legs will take him beside his dad, because he learned early on that if he moves quick, his dad, Gerald, will gift him with a little nod that kind of feels like a hug to him. But on mornings where he couldn't get his legs to move fast enough, that warm nod was replaced with sharp, cutting words. So his nervous system learned, you move quick, you stuff your feelings, and you become helpful whenever possible. Now, Elaine, she lived closer to town, right on the outside of town in a picture-perfect house. Literally, complete contrast from where Frank grew up. Not a blade of grass or a strand of hair was out of place. Elaine's mom ran a tight ship. Frank absolutely adored Elaine. When his eyes would get all glassy, she didn't judge him. She didn't tease him. She would just grab his hand, talk softer, and they would just start walking outside. School was definitely a mixed bag for Frank. He was really strong from carrying or throwing bales over his shoulder every single day. He loved math, but the boys, oh my gosh, they teased him horribly. They called him a wuss. They gave him another nickname in middle school, Wet Eyes. So the shame that would shoot just down the back of his neck when that name would be chanted down the hallway was just awful. But the very first time that Frank took a swing at Bobby Falloway, he was the worst. The laughter stopped. The shame just dropped. And he learned, okay, to get away from bad feelings, sometimes you have to hurt the person in front of you. That was a trick Frank used often, even if it ends up costing him everything later on. But before that comes 9th grade football and those field lights, the ones that make the field light up like it's the town stage. And when he steps out on that field, he hears something, his name. His name is being chanted from the crowd in the stands. Something inside his chest, that same feeling that he had been chasing ever since that first nod from his dad. But in no time at all, like he realizes, oh my gosh, this feeling, this applause, this adoration, this is better than any nod that Gerald could ever give me. Frank, Frank, Frank. And in that moment, he just allowed himself to build a house inside of his chest where he could always go back and visit the moment when he mattered. Hold on to this picture as we walk with Frank into his manhood, because you're going to see why boundaries feel like a fist to his gut. Why in real time he rewrites the story when someone like his son sets a boundary with him. Because when someone says no to him, he feels I don't matter. He feels I am small. He feels insignificant. He feels like he's back on that cold, small Midwestern farm. As an uncle, Frank finds a new stage. He learns fast that when he bends the rules, kids light up. They look at him like he's the hero. So when his sister says no treats before dinner, he hands them fistfuls of sugar with a big grin on his face, like that charismatic grin that melts the whole room. Oh, come on, sis. It's not that big a deal. Let him have some fun. He's never curious why the rule exists. He doesn't care. He just cares about the laughter. He just cares about those little kids running up to him, making him feel like he's on that football field again, and they're chanting his name. He becomes the center. He is the favorite person, the one that all the kids pack around at every family event when him and Elaine walk through the door. This deepened that old lesson that adoration means I matter. And when I matter, I feel safe. As a young husband, he was always tinkering in their tiny rental. Elaine was too. She was ironing, making everything look perfect, like she grew up. But that's why they fit really well together. They knew how to make everything look calm and neat, at least from the outside. Their first child, John, arrived on a warm summer night in 1993. Then their second, and then they had 2 more after that. So Frank is a dad to 4 kids. He fixes the swing set at midnight. He coaches Little League. He never misses a game. He is a hands-on dad, but he's still a man that can't hear the word no without his body flooding and saying, you don't matter. And it's that feeling that he gets when he doesn't agree with what the umpire or the ref says, and he'll get in their face. Even at Little League games, he isn't a stranger to getting removed. One time, he actually took a swing at an ump. Luckily, thank God, he missed. But in the moment when he was getting taken out or removed, he was feeling that shame. But as the days passed, he was getting dads coming up quietly praising him for standing up for the team. And right away, his chest puffs right back up. He feels like he's sitting in that house he built in 9th grade on the football field, feeling good, feeling praise, feeling like he matters. You can see Frank's go-to moves when he feels small are to be useful, get praise, take charge, and if all else fails, fight to get that feeling to shut up. Now let's take a look at how Frank is as a grandpa. He's at Morgan and John's house in the living room, sitting in his favorite chair, sneaking the kids candy. After Morgan very clearly said from the kitchen, no more candy, dinner's almost ready. But he still keeps doing it. Why? Well, because to him, remember when he was an uncle, he realized that when kids are happy, they look at him like he's a hero. So he keeps doing it. But this is how the boundary feels to him. So when John comes around the corner, because he obviously knows his dad by now, comes around the corner to see if he's listening and sees that he's still handing out sweet treats, he's like, Dad, come on. Like Morgan said, no more sweet treats. As John's talking, instantly, he just feels humiliated. He feels shame, and he's back in that 12, when he's 12 years old, he's back in the hallway getting made fun of. He's back on the farm. His dad, Gerald, is ridiculing him. All of that feels so bad. He doesn't know how to cope with it. So as John's talking to him, just that short bit, he instantly starts rewriting it. These kids wouldn't have any fun without me. So he's able to breathe. But as soon as John goes back into the kitchen, the kids whip around, look at Grandpa. He rolls his eyes, makes a face, and pulls out more candy. Another good illustration of what it's like for Frank to be a grandpa and what it's like for John and Morgan when they tried to implement nap time when he used to watch the kids when they were younger. It was so frustrating. So they would try to explain it to him, and he would get very emotional. So he would start crying, and he would have these speeches all lined up, like as if he had rehearsed them a million times. I always show up, I fix the sink, I fix the bike, I do all this stuff, and all I want to do is spend time with my grandkids. But they don't even get to hear the end of his rehearsed speech because he's already out the door. And on those days, he's just trying to leave really fast because he is ashamed. He's feeling that shame again because he's getting emotional. He's crying. He knows feelings are bad. He tries to hide them all the time. But remember, Frank is actually a very, very sensitive person. He's just had to try to hide them because his dad made him feel awful. And so did the teenage boys when they were in middle school. They've made him feel awful. So he tries to get out before he cries. He's not trying to use it as a manipulation tool. And what Frank will do when he gets in the car, because he can't self-soothe, is he calls his one person that always was able to calm him down and not make him feel bad when his eyes got glassy. He calls Elaine, and Elaine knows exactly what to say. They're just jealous because the boys love you more, makes him feel really good, pumps him all up, and he's ready to keep going. Now let's slow this down to where this story completely bends, where Elaine is standing next to the counter with her phone, telling Frank that John and Morgan are taking the kids from us. Those are the words she used because that's what it felt like to her. And when Frank heard that, he just got the message, you don't matter. You're no longer wanted. And some outsider is going to take your boys away from you. I mean, you could imagine he felt small. He felt like he was 12 again. He was getting ridiculed in that hallway. Wet eyes, wet eyes, wet eyes. And the fastest way for him to get out of that mental hell is make himself the one who's being wronged. They're blaming me for being an amazing grandpa. The boys love me more. They're jealous. They're letting a nobody take the boys away from me. They're absolutely cruel. And that is the story that spreads like wildfire with the rest of the minions. Here we're seeing a story twist in action. It's a very common defensive mechanism that emotionally immature parents will use to get away from that mental torment. That's what they're trying to do. They're not trying to be evil, malicious when they're making themselves the victim and you the big bad villain. They're trying to get out of their mental anguish. Later, we're actually going to watch how Frank uses another tool where he learned sometimes you have to use force. So when his alarm goes off again, we're going to watch him go all the way to John and Morgan's front porch. And when he's not invited in, he will lower his shoulder like a battering ram and try to force his way in, because you remember, sometimes you have to hurt the person in front of you to get to what will make you feel better. And to Frank, the only thing that he believes that will make him feel better in that moment is to get back and have access to those little boys. Can we hold compassion for the child brain that is running Frank's adult body? Early life taught Frank that if you're useful, you're needed. Tears, danger. Adoration means you're safe. Breaking the rules makes you feel like a hero, but no one taught him the soft skills. No one taught him that if you feel shame, you're not actually going to drown. You can sit in it, that you don't need to beat somebody up. You can just tell them your feelings. No one taught him that a boundary doesn't mean you're worthless. So I hope you can see that even though Frank is an adult, his brain is still operating on the rules he learned on that small Midwestern farm. Now, snapping back into present moment, we're in the kitchen with John. The family group chat is still just going crazy. He's trying to type up a very thoughtful, crafted email, paragraphs long, explaining to his dad how Morgan and him they're just trying to follow the teacher's advice, how they're just trying to help Carter and keep Blake safe. Tune in next week to hear what he heard back. Here's a hint. It was just 6 simple words.